We had torrential downpours where it was raining for like 3 days straight a week before the walkthrough, and the roof and the ceiling caved in. There was a massive hole just draining water. I was like, Jesus Christ, we're supposed to close tomorrow. Now what are we gonna do? Turns out there was $30,000 of damage to that roof. Yes, I love doing real estate and it's a lot of fun. I get to make my own schedule and hours, but I deal with some absolutely awful people. So these are the worst deals in my real estate career. I got one that was absolutely horrendous where I got completely This was early on in my career. I was almost a brand new agent at this point. I had only been doing this for about 6 months, and this was my second house sale, right? So I had gotten this client. He was a retired Army veteran, very nice guy. He was actually in his early 30s, got discharged from an injury, sweet guy. I actually really like him to this day. We just had really bad circumstances that happened that kind of weren't in his control to begin with. So let me break it down. He was doing a VA loan, which has a really strict appraisal process compared to an FHA loan or a conventional loan, or obviously cash, which has no appraisal contingency. So that right then and there, that started off the deal on a really bad foot. We ended up having a multiple offer situation. We went over asking price and we actually got accepted. I can't remember the exact number. We were like $20,000, maybe $30,000 over asking price, which was great because at this time, I think it was the beginning of the pandemic, so prices were starting to skyrocket. So, if the house had went through, he would have gotten a really good deal, believe it or not. But yeah, so we ended up getting the house. They felt bad. They were like, oh, retired Army veteran, let's give him the house. He's doing a good offer right now. We don't care if it's a VA loan. We know it's a little bit more strict, but we're still going to do it anyways. We did it. We went under contract and we did the inspection, and there was a few things wrong. So during the inspection process, we had found that the roof was really old and they had done a very shady job patching up the roof. There was like a slanted roof and then a flat roof. On the flat roof, they had patched it up using like very unsavory methods that weren't really up to code. So we had to really fight over this roof problem. There was a couple other problems and issues that we had to deal with. Nothing really major. It was really the roof that was the real cause for concern, right? Because roofs, they can be like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to fix depending on the size and scope of the house. So I'm negotiating back and forth during our inspection period with the seller's agent, and we come to terms. We say, okay, the owner's gonna have somebody come out and fix the roof, right? So I said, great, fantastic. Have the owner come and do that. So we got a couple different roof quotes, and the owner's, handyman came out there, fixed the roof, blah, blah, and everything was good, right? We passed our inspection period and we were filing for the loan and we had the appraisal ordered. Here's what happened next, which was absolutely horrendous. I've never had anything this bad even happen to me since then. The appraisal was ordered, and like I said before, VA appraisals are notoriously difficult. They check for a lot of little things that don't come up in FHA or conventional loans. So a few things came up where it was a safety concern. We had to fix like fire alarms and faulty appliances and doors that weren't opening and windows that were closed shut. Little things like that ended up adding up to a few $1,000s in repairs that the owner needed to finish before the appraisal would actually go through. So again, we get through that, everything goes smooth, and the owner says, okay, I'm gonna fix everything up, reorder the appraisal again, have them come out again and reappraise the house. They did, and we were like, great, it passed the appraisal, everything went okay, so all we had to do is sit back and wait for the appraiser's price. Guess what happened next? The house came back $60,000 under the purchase price. So if you guys aren't aware, when you run an appraisal, you have to match the purchase price, or else the bank, the mortgage company, they won't lend you that amount of money. Whatever the appraisal is, that's all the bank's gonna lend you. If it comes lower than that, the buyer or the seller, they have to come out of pocket for that difference. This was $60,000 difference. I can't remember exactly the price of the house. I think it was around $400,000, let's just call it. So the appraisal came back at like $340K, which was absolute madness. There was no way we were getting around this. The buyer didn't have the money to come out of pocket. The seller wasn't budging. So we went back and forth for like an entire week trying to come up with some kind of solution, trying to reorder the appraisal. But since it was a VA appraisal, they were giving us a difficult time doing that. So eventually, I don't even know how I did it, but I got the owner. I think it was because he was a retired Army vet and, honorable discharge, that kind of thing from an injury. The owner probably felt bad and was like, you know what, fine. We'll just call it a draw. We'll lower the purchase price to whatever the appraisal price was, which ended up being about $60,000 under the purchase price. The owner just ate the cost. He had bought the house many years ago. So for him, he didn't really care that much because he was still making out like a bandit at this point. So at this point, I was like, okay, what else could possibly go wrong, right? Appraisal came back. We finally got that negotiated. Inspection, all the problems there. We waited about 2 weeks until the final walkthrough. During the final walkthrough, we go back to the house, and what do we find out? There was a 10-foot massive hole in the ceiling of the house. That patch job the owner was supposed to fix, I guess they hired some kind of shady ass person again, and they botched the whole thing. We had torrential downpours where it was raining for like 3 days straight a week before the walkthrough, the final walkthrough, and the roof and the ceiling caved in. There was a massive hole in the ceiling of that property just draining water. The whole entire floor was damaged. The whole entire roof was damaged. The ceiling was damaged. I was like, Jesus Christ, we're supposed to close tomorrow. Now what are we gonna do? Turns out there was $30,000 of damage to that roof and those floors and maybe the drywall from mold or this and that, because in Florida, the humidity is really high, so mold can go fast. I'm talking within 48, 72 hours, that house could have a ton of black mold spores just spewing out of the drywall. To make a long story short, we lost the entire deal. We went back and forth with the owner for like 2 weeks. We were threatening lawsuits because technically during the final walkthrough, if there's any kind of damages that weren't there during the inspection, the owner is supposed to come out of pocket and fix those issues or problems. But at this point, he wasn't doing it. There were so many things that had gone wrong. He had made so many concessions. He put his foot down and was like, nope, not gonna do it. I'm sorry. I don't care if you sue me. I'm not taking another 30 grand hit. I was getting lawyers involved. The buyer was getting lawyers involved, except he didn't really have that much money, so his hands were kind of tied. The seller was starting to lawyer up. It ended up being more headaches than it was worth, more lawyer fees and more lawyer and court costs than it would have been worth to actually fight the whole thing. So every one of us just backed out of the deal. I was still owed my commission check, and my brokerage is supposed to be the ones that go after the commission. But again, it was going to cost more in lawyer fees from like, I think it was like a $12,000 commission or something like that, or $10,000 commission, whatever it was. My brokerage was like, listen, it's going to cost more in court costs and lawyer fees to even go after your commission. We can't do it. You know, it doesn't make sense. So I ended up losing one of the biggest commissions of my life. Now, this was when I was a brand new realtor, so this was really huge for me. Obviously, I've had bigger deals since then, but that was devastating to me. I remember I was upset for weeks after that. Literally for weeks, I could not stop thinking about that, could not stop talking about that. I wasn't doing that many deals in the very beginning of my career. You know, I think I only cleared like $80,000 in commission as a first-year realtor. So this $10,000 check, that was huge for me. You know, that was like 10%, 15% of my entire salary just gone. Just in a poof, in an instant, just absolutely gone. Being a realtor is not always fun. Yes, we do get to make our own schedules, and yes, we don't have a boss breathing down our neck. We're independent contractors, you know, we can go to bed whenever we want, we can wake up whenever we want, we can go do whatever we want at any point throughout the day. But yeah, being a realtor, there's a lot of pros and cons. You know, you're dealing with unsavory clients, you're dealing with situations that are just completely out of your control and out of your hands. You might have issues pop up that you just can't solve. Now, yes, you're supposed to get creative and you're trying to fix problems, right, as a realtor, but sometimes there's just nothing that can be done. If you guys like this, drop a comment below. I have a ton of these stories that I can tell. I hope you guys found these stories really interesting and fun. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch everybody in the next one. All right, that was pretty good. Not bad.